All right, hello again, you guys. We're going to charge through the end of this so that we don't have any more videos. So now we talk about communication in families. What makes a family? Specifically, we can talk about the genetic ties that we share with people, the legal obligations that we have to them, parent and child, spouse, and role behaviors. So these are the individuals that are within that family actually act like a family. There's various types. We can have our family of origin, which is just the family that you grow up in, biological blood relation that can play a part in it. There's the family of procreation. That's where the family starts when you are an adult and then you have children. There's the nuclear family. This is kind of what we refer to as the quote unquote traditional family, where you have a man, a woman, and then, 2.4 children or whatever they say it is now. There's the blended family where you have two adults, and then there may be biological or non-biological children involved. There's the single parent family where there's one adult and a child or children, and the extended family where you have grandparents, cousins, etc. Those all fall into that sphere. Families enact rules as they communicate amongst themselves. Family rules are the functions that people serve in the family system. So who are you within the family? Are you the peacemaker? Are you the caregiver? Are you the troublemaker, etc.? The list goes on. There are 4 roles that commonly emerge during conflict within family communication. There's the blamer, who holds other people responsible, doesn't accept responsibility for themselves. There's the placator, who goes really to any length to reduce conflict. They're the one that wants to keep everybody happy, and oftentimes they just end up simply agreeing to things to try to diffuse the tension. There's the computer, the person that uses logic and reason rather than emotion, and so they may seem just very I want to say dead, very emotionless and just sticking to those brain impulses rather than emotion. And there's the distractor, who makes random comments for distraction to try to keep people from engaging in that conflict, distract them to do something else. Families enact rituals. Family rituals are repetitive activities that have special meaning for a family in particular. Everybody's family rituals are different. You might every Sunday sit down and have a big family breakfast together, or maybe every weekend you catch up with all of your extended family on Skype. You have like a dedicated time that you do that. Some family rituals are imported from families into blended families. So if you have two adults that were in different relationships before, and you have some of those rituals that you did, or maybe your parents did, when you join as a blended family, you might start to reenact those same rituals that you've done in the past. Families tell stories. Family stories give families a very strong sense of their history and where they've come from, as well as kind of the familial expectations that exist for people, and then also the connections that they share. Family stories are told and retold, from generation to generation, or from cousin to aunt to sister, etc. And oftentimes these stories convey an underlying message about the family. It really says something about who the family is as a unit and who the people within the family are on an individual basis. Families also share secrets. Some families have secrets they intentionally keep hidden from others within that family unit. The secrets themselves can also be kept within families. So just everybody in that family knows, but they don't share it outside of that family unit. When we talk about communicating in the workplace, social relationships can form between coworkers who are usually our peers, going back to that first video talking about relationships that we develop often just being people that are on that same social role-based status level. Friendships with coworkers have both a social dimension and a task dimension, which can conflict. We might be friends with someone and we get along with them, but if we have to actually do a project with them, you may find yourself not exactly enjoying that experience if the person doesn't pull their weight, etc. Romantic relationships between coworkers can be beneficial, but they can also involve stress and conflicts of interest. So again, going back to that idea of unfair treatment, giving people a little more leniency when they're in romantic relationships, especially if it's a boss and a subservient. Generally, those kinds of relationships are frowned upon in a workplace. Social relationships, here's a segue, I kind of jumped ahead of myself, can form between superiors and subordinates. These relationships include a power difference that coworker relationships generally do not. So you're going to see somebody that has more authority within an organization or a company, someone who has less. They often require agreeing to keep professional and personal sides of the relationship separate on a personal level and like within the workplace itself, signing documents saying that you're not going to engage in any of this unprofessional conduct, etc. These types of relationships can also provide a context for sexual harassment. So again, it's a fine line that you have to walk when it comes to these types of relationships. Social relationships can form with clients. Like other workplace relationships, these can experience conflict between the social and task dimensions. You know, if you're good friends with someone or you're dating someone and you ask them to purchase, I'm going to go to the office, purchase paper from your company, and they say, you know, we really can't, we have a contract with someone else, that may end up causing a conflict. Some employers and organizations discourage employees from developing personal friendships with customers. Um, Again, because it can cause conflict. It could also result in lost business if the friendship ends up discontinuing, things like that. So some tips on communicating in the workplace. When it comes to communicating online, remember that you should learn and follow the organization's policies for electronic communication. There are usually very specific policies that are laid out in terms of how you talk to a person via email or on Google Hangouts, etc. You should use electronic communication for convenience, but not as a shield. So if you have something to say to someone that might be a little bit controversial or it should be done face-to-face, you shouldn't be using electronic communication to sort of hide behind. Don't write in an email message what you wouldn't say in person to someone, especially if it could be construed as a harassing message. Remember that all electronic communication leaves a trail. You're going to be able to get nailed on it even if you delete an email. People can always go and backtrack and track things down, so you want to be very careful about what you say. Take advantage of the communication trail when it benefits you to do so. So this could give you the opportunity to reference previous project details to say, hey, you know, we did it this way before, it worked out, maybe we should use this kind of as a basis now. And as you're sending communication, you should know your audience. If it's upward communication, so sending something to a superior, a director, a boss, you want to be very concise and respectful. It should be a little less casual, very task-oriented. When it's downward communication, so you know you're the boss sending it to your employees, you want to be very clear and instructive so there's no chance for miscommunication or misunderstanding. And then when it's lateral communication, so you might be sending it to a coworker, a friend, an office friend, etc. These can be a little less formal than that upward communication. You still want to be sure that you're professional because, again, it leaves a paper trail, an electronic trail, so you don't want to mess with anything that could potentially get you in trouble later on. And that is the end of chapter 10. Thank you so much for sticking with me, you guys.